It's somewhat difficult to find things to talk about in videos, now that I'm not constantly ingesting content from right-wing grifters. Now that I'm not constantly critiquing marginalized groups. I've made it a thing where if I do criticize marginalized groups, I need to also make videos criticizing non-marginalized groups. And that's been difficult to find things that haven't already been discussed ad nauseum. A big problem is that mainstream media already critiques non-marginalized groups on a regular basis, where everything is the fault of straight, white, cisgender Christian males. And most left-wing YouTube channels just simply repeat whatever mainstream media is saying. Granted, there are left-wing YouTube channels that say other things, but they're usually extremists who take things too far, to where they say things like trans women are biological females, or that Antifa, even Black Bloc Antifa, are simply anti-fascist and have nothing to do with anything bad that ever happens. And they repeat notions like ACAB, you know, all cops are bastards, who say that we've been living under fascism for decades. Yeah, there's nothing reasonable to come from people like that. Now, I'm not saying that mainstream media is all bad. They say plenty of accurate and true things, and they do keep up with current events. But their biases are so strong, and their conclusions are often based on their biases. They're not as bad with biases as Fox News, who constantly lies in order to prop up this administration, as well as blame all of our problems on illegal immigrants and marginalized groups. But they still have biases. We can't forget how mainstream media covered up Biden's mental decline for years. We can't forget how they mischaracterized Trump's "good people on both sides" comment. This is why I had asked people to give me some good left-wing YouTube channels. But it doesn't seem to matter. They're mostly all making the same kinds of critiques that I could find on MSNBC and CNN and Stephen Colbert and The View. I mean, if I want to get to the stories before the left-wing commentators do, I suppose I could just regularly watch mainstream news and get paranoid and make it a race for who says it first. I'll pass on that. I'm not running a political marathon. I'm not going to say something that I don't know whether it's actually true or not just in order to say it before everyone else. I often see the same thing on X when it comes to left-wing accounts. It's the same repeating things that come from mainstream media, with the exception of atheist content which blames everything on religion, which gets kind of old pretty quickly. I don't like religion, particularly Abrahamic religion, especially the ones that would teach a young child that their own thoughts will make them burn in hell for eternity. I think that's child abuse. There are also the LGBT activists who say the most ridiculous things. So ridiculous that it's hard to tell whether they're actually real or just bots or engagement farmers. The people posting other things on X are usually on the right, where they always seem to fall for the engagement farmers and make a big deal about it, and where they constantly post a lot of disinformation, misinformation, lies, and conspiracy theories. You know, where people push against vaccines, pharmaceutical drugs, doctors, chemicals of all kinds because they have chemophobia, and the notion that if something comes from mainstream media, it's all lies and fake news, while promoting the use of things like ivermectin for just about every ailment. And also the constant praising of Trump, with regular cult statements like, "I will always stand with Trump," and calling anyone who critiques literally anything about Trump as either having TDS or their new word, panickin'. Right now, so many left-wing channels and accounts are still focused on the No King's Day protests, and Trump's sad military parade where troops don't even know how to properly march, and especially the Israel-Iran conflict, with assumptions about what the Trump administration is going to do about it based on things he's said on Truth Social, even though any attempts at war are supposed to be approved by Congress. Will he bypass Congress to start a war? Who knows at this juncture? Granted, it's really sad how Trump originally said things like this during the Obama administration, even though he ended Obama's Iran nuclear deal once he became president the first time. And now he's pushing for war. So much for him being the anti-war president. It's sad how many MAGA people suddenly became pro-war just because Trump said it. They don't care how much Trump goes against what he originally campaigned under, because they're in a cult. People like Jeremy Prime from Geeks and Gamers are a perfect example of this. So perhaps I should be asking people for subjects to talk about, rather than asking for good left-wing commentators in the hopes that they'll say something either new or interesting. If you do have any good ideas, let me know in the comments. It doesn't have to be political, just interesting. Thanks.